is Professor Jesse Lutabingwa. I think I have to slow down when I'm calling his surname, Prof. In the event that I butcher it, you'll have to forgive me. Thank you. And the topic of discussion, therefore, is fundraising for your non-profit, the ins and outs of grant writing. So Professor Jesse Lutabingwa is Associate Vice Chancellor of International Education and Development and Professor of Public Administration at Appalachian State University in Boone, North Carolina in the USA. He is responsible for providing leadership in, advocating for, and supporting and pursuing Appalachian's global engagement efforts. He has been instrumental in establishing numerous partnerships between Appalachian and several institutions around the world, including some here in South Africa. He has more than 30 years of experience in international education, international development also, right? As part of his international education and development work, he designed to make a difference in people's lives. Professor Lutabingwa has been involved in numerous projects around the world. He has written and received funding that he has worked with, worth more than, listen to this properly, $20 million in the last 20 years to organizations that he has worked with. Professor Lutabingwa has conducted numerous grant writing workshops for different groups in the United States, Nigeria, Tanzania, Brazil, Mexico, China, India, Thailand, and Vietnam. So Professor Lutabingwa has traveled extensively in Africa, Asia, Central, Eastern, and Western Europe, Latin America, and the Caribbean. He holds a bachelor's degree in business administration and economics with political science minor, a master's degree in international development management, and a PhD in public administration. He has published 2 books, several book chapters, and numerous research papers. Ladies and gentlemen, at this point in time, may I invite you to unmute yourself, give a warm round of applause as Professor Jesse Lutabingwa is walking up on stage. Thank you so much. A big round of applause, a big round of applause, a big round of applause, a big round of applause. Over to you, Professor.
Thank you very much, Zikiza. Now I understand why they gave you this role to embarrass people. I feel so embarrassed by all these things that you have said about me. But we will carry on. Thank you for this warm welcome, and thank you to UNO for inviting me to participate in this, this particular event. I hope you are enjoying yourselves and you are learning so much from various people who are sharing with you some wisdom, and that can be helpful to you. Now, there are 2 ways we could go. It's one of the shortcomings of doing these things in Zoom. You don't see the reaction of people that you are talking with. So you are relegated to almost like talking to yourself. So I was going to ask, since you already had some document we sent to you, whether I should ask you to ask me questions and I respond to your questions, or I just lecture to you and then you ask questions later. Since I don't see your faces, okay, hold on. I see some people coming back. Good.
So Prof, we will let you speak now, give a lecture, and then in the end, we will allow some time for a Q&A session.
Okay.
Thank you.
We'll do as you have instructed. So this session is titled fundraising, and it's very true. Grant writing is one of the approaches or mechanisms for fundraising. There are many others. Grant writing is not the only one. And for example, I will share with you that even though I've been successful in grant writing, I'm not successful at other fundraising approaches. In fact, I'm still learning about fundraising from individual donors. I'm still a very young student at that. So I will share with you what I know about grant writing. In what we have already shared with you, I provided what I call a framework that we'll use to guide our progression through this session. And we shared with you the grant cycle. And the grant cycle go through various stages on how you actually do the grant. You define what you are going to do, you research, you prepare, you apply, then there's an award, assuming that you are successful, and then you manage that grant that you have been given. And then at the end, once the time has ended, you close it out. That is also consistent with what we call the 5 R's of grant seeking. And the 5 R's include readiness, research, relationship, writing, and reporting. Those things are interrelated, and through this time together, I'm going to be going in and out of these different stages to help you understand what these things are. I'm going to start with readiness for a grant. When we are doing a grant, when we are writing a grant, the writing process itself is actually maybe one step or several steps ahead of what you really want to be doing. You need to be ready first in order for you to be successful. You need to review your organizational capacity for pursuing a particular grant. So you need to ask yourself, is this grant that you may have seen a good fit for your organization? Is the grant money too big for your organization or too small for your organization? I'll tell you, for example, for me, when I'm trying to pursue a grant, if a grant is less than $100,000, I don't spend a whole lot of time trying to pursue it. That is too small for me, but it may not be too small for you. So you need to make an assessment for yourself. But there are also other grants I see. A grant that is 20 million, 30 million, 60 million is too big for me. So I make a decision not to pursue those kind of grants. I'll tell you, the amount of work you put into writing a 10,000, 15,000 grant is the same amount of work you put in writing 500,000 grant, and the amount of work you put in writing a 10 million grant. So the work is still the same. You need to decide for yourself where you want to invest your resources and your own capacity to be able to pursue such an opportunity. Do you have the right experiences? When I say I don't pursue grants of 10 million, 30 million, part of it is that I don't have the experience. I don't have that capacity. You also need to assess the nature of competition. In several opportunities, they'll tell you, for example, at least for me, the grants that I pursue, they'll tell you that they are going to award maybe they are going to make you 1 award or 2 awards or 10 awards or 15 awards. That gives you the idea of how you want to assess your own competitiveness in that crowded field. If only 1 grant is going to be awarded, you have to be really, really good to get that 1 grant. But if they say there are 10 or more that are going to be awarded, you have an equal chance of being successful among those that are going to be awarded. So make sure you make your own assessment. The other thing that I see where many organizations, especially young ones, have difficulty is what I call assembling organizational documents. These are not part of the writing, but are going to be part of your submission. They are going to ask you to submit several things that if you don't have them, you are going to struggle. So for example, they may ask you for resumes of your board of directors or board of trustees. They may ask you to have letters of reference from the past funders if you have been funded before. They may ask you to have a document on your financial accounting system. How do you manage the monies? They want to be sure that you are going to manage their money in the most judicious way. They may ask you even for your registration, a copy of your registration. Are you a registered organization? So those kind of things you need to have before you want to embark on a proposal. Do you have the right experience? Your organization, does your organization have the right experience? Here, for me, I have this boilerplate that is already developed on a changes very little about your past funding projects, who has funded you and for how long, who are the contact people. That information you need to have handy and ready. You need to assess the resources that you can bring to this project, both your own resources, but also resources from your own community. Some projects that you may undertake may involve working with various other people in community, or you are trying to address a community issue. You need to make sure that you understand what the community is going to bring to this effort. The other things I would say to you, you should read very, very carefully what we call request for proposal or notice of funding opportunity. Understand clearly what they are asking in that announcement when they have announced the project, so that you are clear of what you need to provide. In some situations, for example, especially for US funded projects, let's say you are applying for grants from the US Embassy, they will ask you to have a certain number called DUNS number. And that DUNS number takes a while to get. And so you need to make sure you have received that number before you can submit your proposal. Then you need to research for where actually you can get funding. These days, there's plenty of information on the internet. Use the internet to your advantage. When I started writing grants many, many years ago, the internet was not there. And so we worked hard to build relationship with various funders in many different ways. The internet was not one of the tools that was available to us. But you have the internet, you can do, there's a lot of information that has been put out there, and you can find a lot of funding organizations that can fund your activities. The important thing is for you to know among those funders who are funding projects in your country, wherever you might be located, because many funders have specific geographic location in which they operate. Also, be sure that you understand the amount of money that is these organizations are providing. If, for example, you look into the past projects that they are funded and you find that their funding ranges between 5,000 and 10,000, you will be ridiculous if you submit a proposal of $50,000, for example. So it's important for you to know who is funding what and where. That's critical. The other thing that I want to say in terms of preparation is building relationships. There are three types of relationships that are critical and important for you to understand and try to work at building those relationships. One is with the funders. The other one is with what I'll call collaborating partners. You may have some other organizations that you want to collaborate with as you pursue a particular funding opportunity. And then the third one, community partners. Within the communities where you want to work, you want to make sure that you have in place those relationships within those communities. Let me talk a little bit about building relationship with the funders. My suggestion to you is that you should be prepared to, let's say you have an opportunity and all of a sudden there's a funder that has showed up and you want to talk to that person or that representative of the funding organization. Make sure that you have some things that you can share about your organization and what you do in a very brief statement, what we call elevator speech. If you meet this funder in the elevator and you have only 2 seconds or maybe 1 minute, what can you say about your organization and what you do and why you do it? That's very important because that is what is going to pique their interest and wanting to talk with you more. I also, for me, an approach that I've developed is what I call developing concept papers. I have so many ideas that I want to implement, and I have a concept paper for each of those ideas. A concept paper is no more than 3-page document that has maybe what I call 3 main parts. One is the problem statement or the needs that exist out there, your approach on how you are going to meet that need, and then why your organization is most qualified to address that need. So those are 3 important things that I have in concept papers that I carry around my briefcase, just waiting to see if I might find some funding that could address some of those needs. It's very, very important for you to build a relationship with other organizations because very often you are not going to have the experience, the entire experience to pursue a particular opportunity that might exist. And so you might want to collaborate. So for example, like in this group here of 32 people who are here, maybe you can find some people with like skills or complementary experiences and you want to work together. Now, when you do that, there are several things I should say to you. Make sure that you details how this relationship is going to work. Make sure that you are not going to be swallowed by this other partnering organization that you want to partner with. Make sure that your ideas are not going to be stolen. My ideas were stolen before when I was young writing grants, and then I learned the hard way. I became clever. So make sure that you have some instruments in place that are going to help you to protect your ideas, but also protect your organization. Now, let's get quickly to, let's say now you have all of those things that I've said they are in place. Now you want to start the writing process. In the proposals that I write, there are several sections of the proposals that are important, and you must make sure those are there. Now, the request for proposals will tell you what you should include. And you should make sure those elements are there in your proposal. The first part of my proposal is always a problem statement or a needs statement, which articulates and trying to describe and explain the need that exists that we are trying to solve. Now, I see a lot of people start their proposals talking about their organizations. Remember, the funding organizations are not going to, they are interested in funding your organization for the ideas and the challenges that you have identified, not necessarily your organization per se. So you need to start by articulating the need. And then, and the need to make sure that the need is well documented. Even though the need is important, funders fund solutions, not problems. I'm going to repeat that. Funders fund solutions, not problems. So make sure that even though you want to articulate the need, you are not overly ambitious in terms of how much you write on the need. Spend a lot of time trying to write more about the solution to that problem or to that need. But once you have articulated the need, you need to articulate what is your goal, what are your objectives, what are the expected outcomes. And here I want to tell you the important thing about that section of the proposal, that when you write your objectives, make sure your objectives are SMART. I think in the document I sent you, I told you about SMART objective. I want to share my screen, and I want to impress upon you the importance of SMART objectives. Give me a minute, huh? There are 5 elements of a SMART objective that you need to make sure when you write your objectives, those 5 elements are part of your objective. Can you guys see my screen?
Yes, we can see it.
Yes.
Okay. So your objective must have what we call direction of change. So either you want to increase something, you want to decrease something, or you want to maintain the balance. And then the degree of change, whatever that change that you want to see, it's normally defined in a percentage or nominal number. So the degree of change. The third one is the area of change. What is the geographic location? Is it a village? Is it a town? Is it a region? Is it a country? This is a very important part of that SMART objective. And then the target population, you need to make sure that you have defined clearly what the target population is. And then of course you need to have the time frame. How is it days, weeks, months, years? So you need, the importance of writing this SMART objective comes when you come to evaluation. If your objectives are not SMART, it's going to be very difficult for you when you come to evaluation to be able to evaluate what you did. I'm going to stop sharing. And then another part of your proposal then, and this is what I call the meat of your proposal, is what we call methods or approach to addressing the needs. You need to make sure in this part of your proposal, spend a lot of time in this part of your proposal. I'm going to slow down here because this is very important. And the way I tell people who attend my sessions like you is that put as much details as possible in this section. You want to answer in this part, you want to answer 5 questions. What, who, where, when, and how. For each of the activities that you are going to do, make sure that you answer these 5 questions. The way I write my proposals and the way I advise other people to write their proposals is that in this particular section, it's like giving instructions to people to do something for you, or even giving instructions to myself. Let's assume that you write this very good proposal, and lo and behold, you are funded. But just a few days before you are funded, I'm going to use this example, but don't hold me accountable to it. Just a few days before you are funded, a truck hit you and you are no more. But you want your proposal, your project to continue. So you are no longer there. You are not going to be there to implement it, but you want the people who are left to implement it. So make sure you have given enough instruction for those people who are going to be there to know what is it that you are thinking when you are writing this thing. And that's how much details I put in my own proposals. The other reason is that normally there is a long lag between when you write a proposal and when you are funded. Sometimes your creative juices are flowing when you are writing, and by the time you are funded, you forgot what is it that you are thinking. And then you get funded, but you can't remember what was I thinking on this thing, but it doesn't come back. So make sure that you have enough details, even for yourself, even when you are there, that you can remember what is it that you wanted to do. Make sure you have time frame of what you are going to do and when you are going to do it. This is going to help you in your implementation. Of course, you need a management plan as well as the financial plan. And the financial plan helps you to make your funders comfortable that you have systems in place to be able to manage the monies they are going to give you. And then you need to have the personnel who are going to implement this project. So you put their short bios in your proposal and you tell what they are going to be responsible for. And then you need to have a monitoring and evaluation plan. How are you going to monitor on a regular basis the progress of your project? And then how are you going to evaluate it, whether it's what we call summative evaluation or whether you are going to do impact evaluation? You need to make sure that you have stated that sometimes we do internal evaluation or external evaluation. Make sure that you understand what you are going to propose and how you are going to do it. And then a sustainability plan. Very often these days, many funders are asking people who are applying for funds to put a sustainability plan. How are you going to continue the activities that you start with that grant that you get once the grant monies are no longer there? So you need to think about how you can sustain those activities beyond the funding level that you are going to be given. And finally, you need to, this is where now you put information about your organization. And really what you talk about here is not so much about the mission, vision, and those kind of things. But here you need to articulate why your organization is well suited to implement this project and what you have done before to qualify you to implement this particular project. And then you need to do a budget. Now I'm going to go back to the things I said in the approaches where I say you need to put as much details as possible. The budget is driven by what you put in that section of your proposal. If you don't write details, you are not going to capture the cost associated with those aspects of your activities. And so my suggestion to you is that when you are doing a budget, go back to your activities that you are going to do and trying to cost each activity. And there are a lot of details that you need to capture in that activity. Let me give you an example. Let's say you want to conduct a workshop. On grant writing. You are going to conduct a workshop on grant writing. It's so simple, but it's not so simple when it comes to budget. You need to budget the monies for venue, you need to budget monies for transportation, monies for meals, but also depending on what is it that you want to do, you need to budget monies for audio visuals, you need to budget monies for speakers, you need to budget monies for many different things, papers and clips and everything. So if you don't know the details of what you are going to do, it's going to be very difficult for you to do the budget. In the budget, be realistic. Also, don't pull figures from thin air. Go out and try to understand what things cost. Let me give you an example. I met a young man in Tanzania not too long time ago. He told me he had gotten some money, had gotten some bankers to be interested in some ideas he had. And then he went to present to the board of the bank, and the board of the bank was so interested. And then they asked them, him and his friends, how much does this idea cost? Out of blue, the guy gave them a number. And then they say, okay, we'll give you this money. So they went and they tried to think of the things they wanted to do. Then they came to realize the money they had asked for was half of what they needed. So he was asking me a question, what can he do? I had no answer for him. And so even for you, be realistic about what things cost and be thorough. Don't forget other costs. Do not make up numbers. And the other thing I want to say, also be sure to budget for things like what we call indirect cost or in-kind contribution. Indirect cost are overhead that your organization is going to spend to be able to implement this project. Many people forget to put this cost as part of their budget. In-kind contributions are things that you guys are going to contribute. It's not necessarily the money, but if you are paying for it, you'll be paying a lot of money for it. And so make sure you budget for those things. And then review, make sure that your numbers add up. Very often these days, I think it has become industry standard in grant writing that Excel has become the spreadsheet that we use to build budgets. And in fact, many funders may send you an Excel spreadsheet that they want you to complete. Make sure you have people on your staff or yourself knowledgeable in Excel, because if you don't, and you are going to be changing things in the Excel spreadsheet that they have sent you, things are not going to add up and you are going to be in trouble. And make sure that the formulas in Excel actually make sense. Okay, I'm told that it's time for questions and answers. I'm going to stop there. There are many things we can talk about, but maybe you have questions and I can answer your questions, and then we see how we proceed. So who is going to field the question? Zikiza, are you going to
Absolutely.
manage that part?
Absolutely, Prof. I'll definitely do that. Well, first and foremost, thank you so much for taking us through the process that you have taken us through. And if there's only one thing that I have to take out of this session, is to always remember that you're funded for solutions, not for the problem. So in your writing for a proposal, always ensure that you write so little about the problem, but you dwell so much more on your solutions. Thank you so much, Prof. Jesse. So at this point in time, we're allowing questions and answers. You can do one of two things. You can either write your question on the chat box, or also if you're brave enough, you can unmute yourself and then you can vocally ask your question to Prof. He's here for us. So do we have any questions from anyone at this point?
I see somebody has raised their hand.
Absolutely. Thank you, Prof. So please unmute yourself. Go ahead and ask the question. Thank you. Well, probably that was a mistake, Prof. Do we have anyone with any question for the Prof? Probably it's something that came up. Yes, Marco Pretorius. Unmute yourself, brother.
Hey guys, I hope everyone is well. Hey, Prof, how are you?
Fine.
Can you? So I've got a project where I would like to distribute prosthetics across the African continent, right? And then I want to retrain the practitioners to use the new methods brought forth by the Industrial Revolution. And then while I do that, I would like to set up schools. With the same project, I would set up a little hub which would have internet and electricity with solar panels and a charging station at the wall. So yeah, that's my plan. I wanted to find out, would you be able to assist me to set my project up or to help me with the project proposal? Would you have the capacity for something like that?
I'm not so sure I can commit to that. But your project is a complex one, and that it has multiple strands. My suggestion to you is that you break it into pieces, because you are going to find that maybe you are not going to find a funder who can fund the entire thing, but they could fund portions of it. So if you do a phased approach for your project and you seek funding for different aspects of that, of those different phases, even though they are integrated, but in terms of how you are going to fund them, I think it makes sense to break them apart. But I would not have time to commit. I have my own full-time job here, and the time is not sufficient for me to do what I want to do. I can't commit to saying that I can help you to write the grant.
All right. Thank you so much, Prof.
Thank you very much.
Awesome. Thank you, Marco. Hopefully you will be able to also make use of the questionnaire and the tool that Professor sent prior to help you analyze and break down the projects that you are looking to work into. Thank you so much for the question. Brian, go ahead, brother. You can unmute yourself.
Thank you very much, Evie, Rada, GLC, Zigisa, and good afternoon to the professor and the guests. I just need wisdom here. I have this passion about agriculture, and I was given communal land by my people here in my community. It has been unused land, but what really affected me was funding, because the community is ready. They want agricultural crops, you know, but unfortunately I had to take from my pocket, and the project didn't become so successful, because when I was going to these institutions, when they realized that I am a government official, obviously there's a conflict right there. So I just want to find out, how can I do this and assist my community, you know, especially the funding part, because in terms of taking care of them, I have the people who will work the land, you know. All that I need is sort of funding and perhaps some wisdom around going about it. Thanks.
So there are two ways you can go about this. One way is to look at this as a commercial entity and then develop a business plan and then go to borrow money from the bank. In expectation that this land is going.
Sorry about that, Prof. You may proceed.
In the hope that what you produce on that land is going to help retire the debt that you are going to accumulate. That's one approach. Another approach is for you to think about what is it that these agricultural products that you want to raise on that land, what particular need, problem are they going to address in that community? That then gives you a charitable approach of going about trying to secure funding from different funders who might be interested in funding agricultural program. But you should identify a need in that particular community. Let's say, for example, I'm just going to brainstorm loudly here. Let's say it's food security, or maybe it's malnutrition in the area, or other needs that you might see that need to be addressed, and then you approach it from that angle. Then you can find some other funders who might be interested, and then go on the internet. Go on the internet to look for funders who fund agricultural programs in the country where you are.
You may proceed, Prof. Thank you.
No, I'm
Unless
done.
You're done. Okay. Thank you so much, Prof. Do we have any hand up or, okay, let us see. Thank you. Thank you so much, Brian. Do you have any other question for Prof? You may go ahead and unmute yourself and ask your question. Okay. In the event of none, Prof, what would be your parting words, as we have just about 10 minutes left? And what would be your parting words as far as the topic is concerned?
Well, I can only wish you good luck. There are many needs out there, and there are many funders out there. What I want you to understand is that there are many funding organizations that are trying to meet their own needs. Their own needs is to provide funding to address particular issues of interest to them. And you have your needs in your organizations or in your communities that you need to address. So we need to meet each other somewhere. And the grant proposals are one way in which we can express our needs in our communities, in our areas, and tell those funders that, look, we can help you spend your money. We can help you spend your money. In the process, you meet your own needs and we meet our own needs. Very often, people like yourselves who are trying to look for money think that you are in a weaker position. No, you are not. It's just that you have to work a little bit harder. But those funding organizations, sure, they give you money out of charity, but they have their own needs they're trying to meet. And you have to understand that. It has been a pleasure to talking with you, and I hope I shared something that is useful to you, and you can use it to your own good. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Professor Jesse Lutabingwa. At this point in time, can I ask ourselves to put on our cameras and unmute ourselves and give him a warm round of applause in appreciation? Thank you so much, Prof.
Thank you.